Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Hello, hello.
Good. It's going good.
Hey. Good.
We're back with the remix. I feel like we're Diddy part 2 in this mug of being Black in the pandemic. 3 years later, it's still a pandemic. And last time I checked, we're still Black. So I definitely want to have everyone introduce themselves. And then we can kind of get started of like, why are we having this conversation again?
Okay. Well, I am Dr. Joy Hunter. I'm a postdoctoral fellow here at the Counseling Center.
And I'm Dr. Dave Jean. I'm one of the staff psychologists here.
I'm Dr. Halima Dargan. I am a staff clinician at the center.
And I'm Dr. Shatina Williams. I am the Director of Clinical Services.
Last but certainly not least, I'm Dr. Jackie Darby. I am the Assistant Director of Outreach and Consultation. So the reason why we're doing this video again is just to kind of touch back on what this pandemic has been for African Americans, for Black Americans, for Black people in general. This is not a scientific discussion. It's just our own personal statements and our views and what we have noticed working as being therapists, working with Black people as in the pandemic. So how's it been? How are y'all?
Tired.
Exhausted.
Tired is a good one.
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm tired like the detergent. I'm trying to figure out like what, it's not physical tired, right? I think it's just tired in the sense that we're coming from 3 years, 3-year anniversary of the first shutdown. And I'm wondering, have we made some progress? Or are we still talking about the same thing you talked about the first video? This sounds like a Debbie Downer, and I'm not trying to be that at all. But like just trying to take stock of what's going on.
I mean, I definitely think there's been improvements. No, you go ahead.
No, that's so funny you say improvements, because I feel like issues have been highlighted and exacerbated. It's interesting. Go ahead, Dr. Jean,
Well,
say more.
So I was thinking, like, when you first heard about the pandemic, I mean, I didn't really believe at first that it was going to be as serious as it was. And then over time, it was like, oh, wow, this is serious. Oh, wow, this is killing a lot of people. Oh, wow, people getting sick and spreading around the world. And then, over time, the vaccinations came out. Like, that was sort of an impressive thing. Like, the world kind of came together and we were like, all right, we're going to do this thing to help protect lives. And then over time, it's like different populations are getting, approved for it. Most recently, toddlers now. That was really something that I was really looking forward to. So it hasn't been the same throughout. Like, there have been things that have made it better, but then as the whole thing was evolving, yeah, you're right. There's just things that, I feel like we're kind of in a cycle right now where it's like, oh, there's a new variant, and it's like, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And then it does become a big of a deal, and then we're sort of scrambling around trying to figure out what to do. And then meanwhile, people are getting sick, people are getting harmed, people are losing their life. So yeah, I can definitely see some of the improvements, and we're not in the same place we were a year ago, 2 years ago, but it does feel like the more things change, the more they stay the same too. So I can see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. I was thinking that, it feels like there were so many types of pandemics along the way. So there's, of course, COVID, but I think, after the killing of George Floyd, it's just like boosh. And then the demand on Black clinicians specifically, it was like, boom, there's like a Black tax that's kind of hard to manage. Like, I want to be there for my community, but I also need to be there for myself. And I feel that fatigue as time goes on of trying to balance both of those things and recognizing the importance of both of those things.
So like we're Gabrielle Douglas over here balancing a lot.
Right.
I'm coming with all these pop culture references today, just to let y'all be prepared.
I mean, don't be surprised if I start talking in TikTok language.
Who's gonna know? I think you spoke about the Black tax. Are we ever gonna have to not pay it?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be a tax to pay because there's always going to be a need. Just like, I mean, systemically, like there's just not enough Black clinicians. Even just thinking about our counseling centers. If you look at most of the counseling centers, like AU is one of the most diverse counseling centers out there. So like for students, like we are in high demand, and balancing our lives and our experiences at the same time as our students are having life experiences has been challenging. I think that's going to be a continuous balance, and having spaces that are created to help us process it as clinicians is going to be even more so important, like moving forward, because we are in this endemic. There's been stressors on families, just thinking of it from a collective position, that the system, the unit has been important to help the survival, and is foundational to have a strong unit.
Yeah, I do think AU is very fortunate in that it does, for our size, there are a lot of Black clinicians specifically. And I know that doesn't exist everywhere, and there's some sense of comfort in knowing or believing, actually not knowing, but believing that the students feel like, okay, there's someone there who may understand my experience, because we get it wrong too. Because we just can't speak for our experience and go, oh yeah, they're having the same experience. Although I will add the caveat that, especially the first year of the pandemic, feeling like everyone is experiencing, shouldn't say everyone, a lot of Black people are experiencing racial trauma. And it's like, I'm here and I'm available, and my job is to like work with clients in that while I'm also going through it myself. And the importance of having spaces for me to go to and say, hey, I'm exhausted, or sometimes not even just say I'm exhausted, just sit and breathe for a minute with other people. There's something very powerful about that.
I think Dr. Williams mentioned like TikTok and stuff like that. I think also too, social media is making it more comfortable talking about mental health. And I feel like Black people are just taking that like, yeah, I need it.
But I would agree that social media, I've noticed a lot how maybe that's one of the more positive things that have come out of the pandemic, that mental health awareness has increased, especially amongst the Black community through social media. I see people drop in their therapist gems all the time and encouraging their peers to go see a therapist, and doing it in a way that maybe we can't do or we don't do as actual clinicians, just really making their peers feel comfortable with even just thinking about or talking about therapy or mental health in general.
I don't want to keep y'all because we got works to do, but I definitely want to end with this idea of Black joy and Black celebration. Because I think now too, as a community and as a culture, we're recognizing that in the fight of liberation, there is so much room for joy, and we have into celebration. So do you have any tips and tricks of how people can incorporate that into their own life? I'm making y'all work, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The image that comes to my mind is somebody, it was on TikTok, that when Black people find something funny, we can't contain it, so we take off running. And it's so real. This is not a tidbit, but I just wanted to say how accurate that is, and how in times of pain, it's important to laugh. Yeah.
Well, sticking with the TikTok theme, that I gotta put me first, Lucius. I gotta put me first. That is a tidbit. Put yourself first sometimes. And, it looks different for everyone because there is someone who prioritizes work over themselves, and there's someone who prioritizes family over themselves, or enjoys being with their family, but they work too much. So whether putting yourself first is missing a working social hour to spend time with family, whatever that means for you, taking the time to pour into yourself and turning off the TV sometimes, especially when we are bombarded with images of Black people being killed constantly. So those would be my 2 tidbits.
I think about what Dr. Halima was saying as far as like taking care of yourself, just thinking about the strong Black woman phenomenon, right? And how, especially during this time of the pandemic, managing and balancing so many different roles, but in that maybe self getting lost, and how important it is to find space and room for yourself. In addition to like, we saw that things were shut down, right? So what you thought you could do for self-care has to be like reimagined, and take the time to reimagine what that looks like. If you're not able to go out, what can you do in your space?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that this pandemic experience has highlighted, that is helpful to kind of remember what you enjoyed and kind of adjust and alter. How can you still have that need being met?
I mean, yeah, to piggyback on that, I mean, I think my tidbit would be like exercise. And then during the pandemic, you had gyms that were shut down, and you couldn't really work out unless it was sort of home, and like people adjusting and trying to figure out. I mean, personally, I got a bike, and that's been kind of the thing that I've gone to like a few times a week just to kind of decompress, to get my heart rate up. That's kind of helped me stabilize and decompress when things have been feeling really, really exhausting, overwhelming, etc.
Great. Y'all got all the gems. I don't have to say nothing. So no, I think of Black person joy is a lot of Black people are really tapping into themselves and what they want to do, and letting go of obligations. And so I saw a lot of small businesses that got started during the pandemic, not just for financial reasons, but because like, you know what, I have time. Why not actually do what I want to do? So a lot of candle making, body oil stuff, cakes and pies. And I was like, yes, you better. And it's like, you can see the joy they get in crafting things. And then the even more joy they get with sharing it. And then the community as a whole rallying around them. I saw a lot of small indie brands all of a sudden got partnered with these huge companies, and not only are they getting paid well, that's an important piece, but also they're getting the exposure that they rightly deserve because of it. So I think that's highlighted. Great, just let go of obligations and do what aligns with you. Well, it's been fun, but I'm looking at a tight team. I see all y'all schedules. As always, thank y'all so much for joining us on Being Black in the Pandemic, the remix edition. Hopefully we'll do a Being Black just at AU and not in the pandemic next year. But with that, take care. Bye.